Michigan's coaching staff has been raided by the former head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh. He has taken Jesse Minter, officially named defensive coordinator for the Chargers. He has taken Ben Herbert, officially named strength and conditioning coach of the Chargers. And just yesterday, U of M defensive line coach Mike Elston will join Harbaugh in L.A. as well. So what a trek for Elston. Notre Dame, Michigan, and the Chargers.
Pretty good.
How about that? Not bad. Now, here's what I think. You can blame Harbaugh all you want. If you're like, how could Harbaugh do this to the University of Michigan? I know there are some fans out there that are not pleased with Harbaugh dipping into the Michigan talent pool for coaches. However, I maintain this. Nobody wants to coach in college anymore. If you have an opportunity to coach in the NFL, you know what you do? You coach in the NFL.
Hell yeah.
It is just the absolute wild, wild west. Transfer portal, NIL. Where's my millions? Where's my car? Where's my deal? Where's my playing time? And it's fine. If I was a player, I'd probably do the same thing. But when you're a coach, there's no time to coach football. So whether you're the defensive line coach at Michigan, or you're the head coach at Boston College, or a coordinator at Michigan, if you have an opportunity, heck, Chip Kelly, the head coach at the UCLA, is trying to get a coordinator job in the NFL. If you can make the jump, now you make the jump. That's what I attribute all of this to.
You're probably right. I mean, 100%. In terms of coaches wanting to get to the NFL, to get away from the NIL, the Wild Wild West, etc. 100%. But if you're Ben Herbert, you're a strength and conditioning coach, would you rather be a strength and conditioning coach in college? Or would you rather be a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL? I'd rather be a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL. They have a longer life shelf, especially with coaches getting fired every other 2 years. They're the staff that usually stays on. Two, it's who's going, Ryan. Like, I think it's who's going. It's Jim Harbaugh. Like, if I'm Zach Mostra, if I'm Zach Minter, excuse me, if I'm Elster, if I'm Ben Herbert, Jim Harbaugh's had success everywhere he's gone. Everywhere he's gone. Not everybody can say that. Most people can't. He's had success. You've seen San Fran. You've seen Stanford. You've seen what he did in Michigan with Ben Herbert. So, yeah, if I'm Ben Herbert, I'm going with Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. I'll look at that roster and I see what they have. Yeah, I'm going if I'm any other coach that Harbaugh pulls. It's because, one, it's the NFL, which means that paycheck is going to be a lot more than it is now, which means your wife will be a lot happier than she is now, which means your kids will be a lot happier than they are now. But also, it's the NFL, but it's Jim Harbaugh. I think that's the big thing. It's who's going. Like, other coaches may have gone. You can maybe see a guy, I like this Michigan gig. People respect me if I'm Ben Herbert. They know me, or they know I changed the program around. All right, I appreciate it, so-and-so. I like it here. I like it in Michigan. I like what I built. Man, it's Jim Harbaugh. And everybody in every outlet says the same thing. He does not fail. So if I'm these coaches and he says, hey, yes, that's my answer before he even asks.
Listen,
man. I
man,
pray you take me.
That defense last 3 years has been terrific.
It has.
Terrific. The offensive line has been terrific. The D-line, terrific. Jesse Minter was a find, man. Was a find. Now you got to replace these guys. Wink Martindale, a guy that's been all over the place. You like Wink.
I love Wink.
Former defensive coordinator for a few teams in the NFL. He's looking for a gig. The other day, his name surfaced up on the Michigan Wolverine platform.
He's a hell of a...
Yesterday, Joe Cullen's name popped up. He's the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs D-line. And Josh Henschke put something out, our friend Josh Henschke. And he's like, well, I guess I got wrong information. Yeah. It's not going to be Joe Cullen. But I haven't heard any other names. I just... If you don't have your guys yet, I just feel that Sharon Moore, I know everyone thinks he's good. He's a good young coach. I always thought he might be over his head. Yeah. And I wanted a big-name guy to come in with his own people, bring his people in. And it looks like Sharon Moore is out there looking for his people. And I just don't think it bodes well for the Wolverines. I think we're in for another decline.
Yeah, 100%. Like I hope And I pray that Sherrone Moore is the answer, that Sherrone Moore can pick up where Jim left off, where they left off this past season. I just don't see it, though. Maz, and this is how Ryan is probably 100% right about his theory about Jim never wanting to leave. It came at the end of the season by not having a contract. Because Jim's the kind of guy, if he was going to leave, Sherrone Moore would have already have known. Sherrone Moore would have had this whole season to vet a staff, to look from afar. When he's not working on Michigan and game planning, see who he saw. Who do you get along with? Who would I bring in if I was going to be the head coach of the University of Michigan? The fact that he's scrambling, the fact that Jim is already still taking people, and he's probably finding out damn, you taking him too? Damn, he's leaving too? Who you leaving, coach? You might be 100% right about the whole thing. It had to do with the contract. They didn't get it done when they were supposed to do it. Jim Harbaugh made that decision to go to the NFL in December based on how everything played out. Because you can't tell me that Jim doesn't know how companies work in terms of allowing that time so that you can get your things in order so that when the transition happens, whether it's moving to a department at Blue Cross Blue Shield, whether it's moving somewhere at Ford or GM, you help that next person get themselves together. Am I right, man? Isn't that how you help them get together?
Of course.
Once they've got to the point, then you say sayonara and see you later. That's not what this is. This is, you know what? I'm over this. You know what? I'm out. Sherrone, you can take over. Figure it out.
And I think there's something about age bias here, too. I think it's really hard for an older guy like a Mike Elston.
Yeah.
Like somebody in their 50s. And I think Elston is in his 50s. I should probably confirm that. But I think Mike Elston is an older gentleman. I think it's hard.
With a name like Elston, he definitely sounds like he's 56.
He is 49. Okay?
Knocking on 50.
So he's knocking on 50. I think it's harder for a guy like Mike Elston or any older coach to work for somebody in his 30s. Relate it to your own job. If you're out there, you're a middle-aged guy in your 40s or 50s, do you respect somebody in their 20s that you might be working for? 28-year-old kid that you're working for. Look at me. I just said 28-year-old kid.
Pissing.
No more language, please. Please, no more language. Please, I can't do it anymore.
My apologies.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, Maz, would you want to work for somebody in their 30s?
How much is it paying?
You know, I mean,
it depends. If I know the guy,
Yeah.
If I know the guy and I know how smart and how brilliant he is, and I believe in what he's doing, yeah, hell yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. Just because I'm 62 years old, I really don't give a damn. I'm willing to learn. They say you can't teach old dog new tricks. I disagree with that. I'm always up to learn something new.
Robert De Niro did a great job in a movie like that. I think it's called The Intern or something like that. Where
Yeah, The Intern. That was what it was.
A great job. But it goes back to this. I think this is what you're looking for, Ryan.
okay.
When I was playing in the league, whenever we have a young offensive coach, like a young let's say wide receivers coach, like I remember I had this guy, it's Dave Canales, who's now the head coach of
Carolina Panthers.
Like, he was my wide receivers coach. I was like, I'm not listening to this guy. He's young.
Right.
And this was then. I'm like, this guy's a kid. I'm not going to listen to him. I know way more about route running and kind of offensive concepts than he does. So I understand what I'm saying. And that's an offensive, and I look at it how football is today, and that's a position coach. Could I imagine playing for one of these guys? Like when Sean McVay broke the record and he was 34. Can you imagine being like Tom Brady and have to listen to a guy that's 34 years old? So I equate it to that. I think it's tough, but also it's a lot of sharp individuals out here. It's a lot of sharp minds. If they came with the right mindset, then I think I'm up for it.
The one positive aspect, Braylon Edwards, of Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL, you do know this, right?
Yeah, I can be on the sideline now.
But you can't be on the Chargers side.
So that's fine. The funniest thing ever, I was like, I wonder if he passed that down to Sherrone. You're a funny guy.
Oh, man. Braylon's back into the good graces of the University of Michigan with Jim Harbaugh leaving.
They take my check every year, though, but that's neither here nor there. Take that check.
Yeah. So Mason Lee says, so Wink Martindale is the exception. Wink Martindale is an old fart and won't fit here at Michigan. He's going to run the same Don Brown defense that gave up 60. I don't know that Wink Martindale is going to be these are just names, guys. These are names in rumors. I don't think these are, maybe they are serious names. I don't think they're serious names. I think this is going to be somebody you never heard of before.
I don't think Wink Martindale's the answer to come here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a young guy that's been
Right.
in college, that's working his way up. And I know that's an oxymoron from what I'm talking about on Sharon Moore. I just don't know. I don't know about
We don't
him.
know what we don't know.
I don't know.
One thing I will say, look, Wink Martindale's a hell of a defensive. He's a hell of a defensive mind, hell of a defensive coordinator, and he doesn't use a lot of blitz. So it wouldn't be like Don Brown, because whoever said that, he's not a blitzing. That's not his identity. He's not a big blitzer. He's at Baltimore Ravens. They didn't need the blitz. He's got the Giants. 2 years ago, they had a really good defensive line. They didn't need the blitz. But to your point, I'm just worried about bringing in somebody that's older than Sharon Moore, that has more experience than Sharon Moore, that can now make Sharon Moore guess his decision making, or like push him in certain areas if you want to. Nah, don't do that. Nah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say that. I don't want him to have a guy like that. I think he needs somebody around his age, somebody that's younger, so that he can move and he can clearly be the guy, the voice. You start bringing in guys like that, Wink Martin. Well, when I was with the Baltimore Ravens, or when I was here, or what we did with this player, what we did there, I don't care what you did with that player. This is how we're going to do it in Michigan. So I don't think that would fit. I agree.
I would like to, and I wish I would have done this earlier. I did not do this because it just kind of happened in the context of the conversation. But I would like to look at Marcus Freeman's staff at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
To see how that staff is constructed, because they have, after a rocky start, they have had some success. Notre Dame is a very difficult place. I contend Notre Dame is a very difficult place
It's won 11
to have
games.
sustained success. I mean, Marcus Freeman's 38 years old.
Probably like Michigan.
Well, yeah,
They're not going to let the average guy in. They're not.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, what is the makeup of the staff? Does he have like a 60-year-old former head coach?
Right.
Is like a Mike Shanahan on his staff that he could call up and say, "Hey, help me game plan this scenario, this, that, and the other thing." I don't know. So
I just think a guy like a Brian Kelly or someone like that brings over a pro staff with him.
well, there's no doubt.
And that's what I was looking for.
That would have been my first choice.
That's what I want.
That would have been my first choice. So call to Brian Kelly.
Call it Brian Kelly.
A Brian Kelly guy. That type of guy.
But it's
right.
not going to happen with this athletic director. This athletic director will not hire somebody who is perceived as bigger than him.
He's got a young staff. I'm looking at Notre
Yeah.
Dame staff right now. I actually recognize some of these names. I played against him. Dylan McCullough, I played against him. He's a running backs coach. Al Washington played defensive line. Mike Mickens played actually at Ohio State. He's on that line. Chris O'Leary, he played in the league. He's a young guy. So to your point, he did like Harbaugh. It's a bunch of young guy, former players, kind of like Dan Campbell.
Guys, I wanted to, if we could, turn our attention a little bit to a player formerly of the Michigan Wolverines, if we could, and that's J.J. McCarthy. And according,
Here we go.
Look,
It's gonna be a long. Hey, it's gonna be a long time from now to draft day.
so one of the NFL Twitter people, popular on Twitter, JPA Football, put out a rumor there that the league, quote, the league view, this is what it says, rumors, the league views Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy much more highly than fans and media do. The league also views quarterbacks Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. as day 2, day 3 guys. And that first part is a part that I think I've been saying for a long time. He hasn't had to do it at Michigan. They were a run-first team. He didn't have to throw 5-6 touchdowns a game for 400 or 500 yards a game. That's not how Michigan wins. But I think this kid has every tool that you would ever want for an NFL quarterback. And the first guy that I thought of when it came to this line here, that the league views Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy much more highly than fans do, is Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary was not a great player at Michigan. He just was not. I think he had 2 sacks
His senior year.
year,
Junior year.
maybe his entire career
Nah,
at
just
Michigan.
close.
Couldn't get to the quarterback. How he was used was not how they use him in the National Football League. And I just think there's something about McCarthy here that the league will see, and this guy will continue to move up draft boards each and every month.
I agree with you every time you said it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in lockstep with you. I mean, and when you were talking about he's gonna be the number one overall player, I thought you were crazy. But every time you said what you said, I've never gone against you. He's 6'3.5", maybe 6'4". He's a damn good leader. I've talked to him on numerous occasions. Super humble, super sharp about the game. He's a good kid. Like, I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. No, he's an old school good kid. Class, talks, yes sir, no sir. And when he's on the football field, he's a playmaker. He doesn't get rattled. That's another thing I learned about him. You can hit him. He's a tough guy. He gets down, and he'll throw the ball down the field. He has a big arm. He can make crazy plays. He can do some dumb stuff too. But guess what? That's every quarterback that's going in the top 10. It's every quarterback that's going to be like that. So, JJ, we just talked about this last week or the week before, Ryan. What did I tell you? I said I see him as a tweener, but what? From now till April, he will definitely move himself up. I say he'll be faster than most of those quarterbacks. He'll be more athletic than most of those quarterbacks. He has the big arm like Drake may. And at the end of the day, he's gonna knock your socks off at the board, and he's gonna charm you when you interview with him. So I definitely see him probably getting drafted no less than 15. He'll move at least up to them by then.
All right, we've been talking about what team's going to draft him. If he's going in the first round now, and he's going to be one of the first quarterbacks taken, where's he going?
Washington.
That early?
2. Maybe the first quarterback taken. I'm serious. Now, if Washington, if Williams is on the board at 2, I think Washington will take him because of the natural fit.
Yeah.
He's from D.C.
Yes. And he wants to be there.
He wants to be in D.C. Cliff Kingsbury is the new OC there. But
worked with him all year last year.
Right. A lot of this is at the top of the board. We don't know what Chicago's going to do.
Nice.
If Chicago keeps Justin Fields, they'll probably trade out of that pick, I would assume. Maybe even they trade back to 2, right? If they traded with Washington.
I don't think they're keeping Fields, right? I just do not think they're keeping him. You said it. They want to start the clock over.
Well, I think that's very important. But if you look at Chicago's defense, you know, Chicago has a defense that is a really good.
It is.
They're really good on that side of the ball. I don't know what's going to happen. I think J.J. McCarthy will be a top 5 pick. I will say that. I think he will be a top 5 pick
every time,
for sure.
Every time I try to be on your side and give you a little grace and try to say I support you, you throw something like that out there. We just went from him being a first-round quarterback. I even came down to maybe the 15th pick. I'm over here trying to find a place for the guy now. Seattle needs a quarterback. I'm like, Seattle picked 16th. Well, maybe they get drafted.
He won't get past the Raiders at 13. I can assure you of that.
Okay, I can give you the Raiders at 13. For you to say number 2 to the Commanders, come on, Ryan.
Okay, I'll say top 5 because Washington I don't like. I think somehow, some way, Caleb Williams is going to go to Washington, whether that's 1 or 2 or whatever.
I got one for you. Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos need themselves a quarterback. Sean Payton, if wowed by J.J. McCarthy, that's your landing spot, Ryan. 12, Sean Payton, J.J. McCarthy. Book it.
Maz, what about you?
I think he goes late in the first round and he goes to a good team. And the teams I threw out there that are picking late.
Because you got to have somebody to groom him.
Yes. I think he lands.
Rams.
I think Rams is a phenomenal
Rams at 19.
choice for him. That was my number 1 pick for him.
Matt Stafford, Sean McVay.
I would hate it if he goes there.
He's competing against his
But
boy.
he's not getting past New England at 3.
That's some bet. You should bet that. I know you don't bet, but that's something that you should. I'll bet for you. How's that? I got to bet that for you because if that hits,
not splitting nothing
that's going to be a lot of money.
J.J. McCarthy will not get past New England at 3.
They got new people drafting this year.
Now, I understand it, but the thing I hate about it is I think that offense is horrific. There is no talent there's no talent at wide receiver. There's no talent at running back. There's no talent on the offensive line. That I hope he does not go to New England, but I don't think he's getting past New England at 3, or maybe even the Giants at 6.
Ryan, this is the other thing that you got.
Giants, they're in love still with Daniel Jones.
This is the other thing that you have to think about when you're drafting a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy. It's very tricky because, look, I know you all say, oh, they ran the ball, he didn't have to pass the ball, but that's called experience. The more you pass the ball, the more you're in situations, the more you get that in-game experience where you can see how to play this game at the elitist level. The guys that go in the first round, they have a ton of experience. They have a ton of wins and big games and yards and things that they have to do. But also, with JJ not passing like that, he's going to need to be mentored. He's going to need to mentor. And if you're going high, if you're going in those top 5 slots, the top 3 spots, the top 10 pick, there's no mentors. That's why they need quarterbacks. So that's why a big thing for a coach drafting that high, do you bring in J.J. McCarthy, who you know isn't clearly ready right now, and then you throw him into the fire without a mentor? That's why I like what Maz is saying a little bit better. If I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who clearly need a quarterback, maybe I pay Baker for this year, but maybe I have JJ waiting in the wings. Maybe I have him underneath. They pick 26. Maybe it's the Rams and Matt Stafford. I would love for JJ, you said it 2 days ago, I would love for JJ to have a chance to learn under Matt Stafford, who has patience, who's I think is a great person.
And McVay.
And then you have McVay as his guy. I like it in the backgrounds, where you can actually have a mentor quarterback situation with one of these elite offensive coordinators. I think that's his best option for success.
Yeah, can I revise my JJ's going to go number 1? Can I revise that?
Yes.
Now, I want to be very
He'll be
clear.
the best quarterback in this draft.
Well, that stands. That stands.
Okay.
If I was picking, I'm not picking, but if I was picking, I would select J.J. McCarthy as the first quarterback overall. That's not the case.
Right.
Caleb Williams will be the first quarterback taken.
Correct.
J.J. McCarthy will be the second.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to.
Well, the Patriots need a quarterback. They pick second.
Yeah, that's
they
where
pick
I'm going to go.
behind the Commanders.
That's where I'm going to go.
So
well,
they're
unless
on number 3.
Unless, if the Bears ship Fields out,
Right.
and they pick Caleb at 1, then I think JJ goes 2 to Washington.
Okay.
I think he's going to be the second quarterback.
All
He's
right.
that good.
Let's book it.
Book it.
I think the problem when you're dealing with the top 5 picks, though, is they need you to be that good now. I see JJ as being that good in 3 years, 4 years, maybe 2 if it just hits with the right spot. I don't think he's that ready now. And if I'm picking 1, if I'm picking 2, if I'm picking 3, man, and I need a quarterback, it's because I need a quarterback now. I can't get JJ and have to groom him.
NFL ready day 1.
Cap.
We'll take a break. We are.